Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. Just be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff. Good evening, everybody. Oh, that's good. It's hot. Needs a slurp. Hope everyone's well on this Thursday evening. Welcome to another live stream. This is Moving Home with Charlie. I'm Charlie Landon, and in this video, I am here to help you if you are a struggling seller. I have had a higher than usual number of messages from people really struggling to sell their homes and wanting to be realistic, wanting to do the right thing, but they're coming to me because they've already missed the opportunity to get it right first time, which is the biggest mistake you make. And if there's one thing I want you to learn from this video, it's this. If you're wondering what your home is going to sell for, nobody knows. The market decides. There you are. There's the words right there. The market decides, not you. You can decide what you think you want, but that's got nothing to do with what the market will pay. Not your agent. Again, the agent doesn't decide on behalf of buyers what they're going to offer. Good agents might have a better feel for the ballpark, but no one can put an actual price on it. And even the very best agents can get quite close to what they expect you'll actually sell for, but still there's always this weird fudge factor where for reasons that no one saw coming, you get more than you expected or less than you expected. But in either of those eventualities, because we are not in a relentlessly rising market, putting a high price on, sitting back and hoping is going to put you into real trouble. Now, I'm going to talk about, I had a private message from a follower on TikTok who actually said, we've changed agents twice. We're with our third agent. We've dropped the price 3 times. Now we're desperate and we don't know what to do. And I did reach out to her and ask if I could share the link to her property, just give it a bit of a bump and a bit of a boost, but I haven't heard back. So I can't share the exact link without her permission. But I went back and said, talk me through what happened. Why did you price it where you priced it the first time? I can give you what the numbers are, right? And what happened then and what happened next and what's happening now and why. So what's the story? And what always happens, because again, it's always the price is wrong. It may also be problems with the marketing and it may also be other problems with the property, but it is always the price as well. And the nut I want to crack, and it is like a concrete nut that will not crack, is this misconception among sellers that their home is definitely worth what they think it's worth and or what they want for it. Because it is the mistake of clinging to that belief that ends up costing you money, because the market for your property doesn't care what you think it's worth. And the market for your property doesn't care what you want for it. And the market for your property doesn't care what the agent valued it at either. The market decides. There are no exceptions. And even there are no exceptions, right? The market decides. Even, and you know, for sellers who are not going to auction, which is an absolute last ditch resort desperation, the auction is the market for that property now, and the auction decides the price. It's the same when you're selling your house on the open market. You just don't have all the buyers in the same room bidding against each other, although that's what you want to try and achieve. So first and foremost, I am here for sellers who are on the market, struggling to sell. Maybe you've already dropped your price once or twice. Maybe you've already moved agents once or twice. I'm here for you guys first. Any other sellers as well, give me your questions, okay? And please make sure you write questions when you're in the live chat right now. Hello, Nima. Hello, Popolop. Good evening, Rohit. Rohit says, if you make too much noise while slurping tea, 50% tariff on you, Charlie. Payne and Son. Hi there. Hi, everybody. So let's get to this. I'm going to talk you through the story, and I'm going to talk to you and tell you what the mistakes were. They might sound obvious, but then the real problem is, what do you do about it now? And by the way, the reason for the title of this video, Selling Just Got Harder, is because stamp duty went up. And that means that the costs of buying, not the price of the home, the costs of buying just went up by between £2,000 and £20,000, depending on where you are. But it's still, that's just like a transaction friction cost. It's extra cash, and it's cash that's just, it's not invested. It's not going to the deposit. It's not going towards the mortgage. It's not going towards anything. It's just money. It's just gone like that. It's gone money. And with that going up, it was already hard enough to sell, right? For a lot of people, already really very hard. It's just got harder. But in any market, no matter how much harder it gets, no matter how much of a buyer's market you're in, there is always a market for any property. It just may not be at a price that you like. So this lady contacted me and said, we put our house on the market. The initial price was £720,000. That was the asking price. And this was for a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroomed, thatched cottage. Beautifully done inside, lovely garden, outside buildings, somewhere in the south of England. But straight away, 4 bedrooms with only 1 bathroom. I mean, I don't know many people that are going to pay £700,000 for what would be a family home with only 1 bathroom, right? And straight away, I mean, it was like, that sounds really, really toppy. And a lot of sellers think that because they love their home, everyone else will love it too. And it was, I mean, genuinely beautifully done. But thatch, what's the first thing when you think about a thatched property? Well, the roof's got to get replaced every 20 years, roughly, completely replaced with a brand new one. And what just happened to those sorts of costs in the last few years? They've gone up by 50 to 100%, that kind of stuff. It's like, it's double what it was 10 years ago to do that. And so buyers are looking at older buildings like that, older, drafty, not very well insulated, and high maintenance cost, and small rooms and low ceilings going, it looks nice, looks lovely. It probably is lovely, but it's small compared to other buildings. And it's going to be high maintenance. Because this will be high maintenance, we're going to budget more for maintenance, therefore we're going to bid less. Anyway, I thought, right, £720,000. Who's overvalued that and why? And I asked the question, I said, who decided on that price and why? And she told me that it was the agent who said £700,000. But her husband said, I want £725,000 for it because that's how much we need in order to buy our next place without a mortgage. Right? That's how much we need to downsize without a mortgage. We need £725,000. And for that reason, the seller said to the agent, we'll go with you because you put the highest value on it, and we're going to put even more on top of that. And the agent foolishly, and it was foolish because they didn't sell it, they didn't make any money, agreed to that. And there's a big debate about whether overpricing of these homes is the fault of the sellers or the fault of the agents. And if agents had the option to not overvalue, then they wouldn't, because it makes their job harder. It takes much, much longer to sell an overpriced property, and agents don't get paid unless they sell the property. So agents would, if they could, they would price properties much lower. They don't, because then they don't get the business, and because sellers' expectations are very high. So I do think that we start off with sellers' expectations being the problem. Now, why are sellers' expectations that high? Well, that's another whole discussion. And that's down to the media, the house price indices, overvaluing on Rightmove, all the unsold stuff, and agents endlessly talking the market up, going, it's up, 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 and it's record, record, record. And sellers go, oh, great, I can charge what I like. Now, this lady said to me, she told her husband it was a mistake to do that. Well, she was right. It was a huge mistake, because here we are some months later with the third agent, with the price reduced from 720 to 690 to now 660. So they've now taken £60,000 off the price. And I had a look at this property, and I looked around. I don't know the area very well, but I just did very, very quick. Look, what similar stuff is nearby for that price? And bear in mind, right, 4-bedroom thatched cottage with 1 bathroom and double garage, parking for a few cars, lovely garden, etc. But the nearest comparable 4-bedroom, 1 bathroom I could find was a much less pretty looking, more modern house, probably a sort of 1980s built thing, which had more space and also had planning permission for another 4-bedroom house on the plot. And the asking price for that was 550,000, and it wasn't selling. Now, you don't have to be someone with 30 years experience in the property industry to do that kind of 30-second lookup check. What's the closest comparable property on the market showing for? What are the other ones? And yes, they're all going to be overpriced. And if they're still for sale, it means that they aren't under offer, so they're probably overpriced. And so I asked this, was this just messaging, right? It's private messaging. And I just said, would you like my honest opinion? Because I never say my honest opinion unless I checked that they really are ready for it. And I said, if you were a member of my family, and the reason they need to sell for her husband has got a disease and they can no longer live in that property because of that, and he's getting worse and worse the longer he lives there, and so they urgently need to move out for his medical and health reasons. And I said, if you were my family in that situation, I would be telling you to bear in mind they've dropped the price from 720 to 690 to 660. I would be telling you to drop the price to 525 or 500,000. So in other words, taking off roughly another 150,000 off the price, another 25% off the price. And she was shocked and horrified, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was just couldn't believe it. And I thought to myself, for a seller to be in that situation where reality is that much of a shock, you have to be almost willfully not looking at what the evidence around you about what you're going to get for your house. And I get it. It's human nature. It's optimism bias. It's all the things that we, maybe we just get that one person that will fall in love with it, right? But the mistake they made is ignoring the fact that the market decides what their house is worth. The mistake they made is thinking that what they wanted actually counted for anything. If you need to sell, and in this case, they do need to sell for medical reasons, you have, whether you realize it or not, you don't have a choice but to accept the market. And this is where and why I always say that your choice of agent is critical, because how you bring your home to the market is everything. You only get one chance to make a first impression on the market of your home. Okay? And if you get that wrong, you've just made your job of selling much more difficult, because you have scared off all the potential buyers who might have liked your house, but have seen it and just gone, either they're greedy or they're unrealistic, but in either case, there's no point going around to see it. And the problem is that without people coming around to see it and creating a genuine market for your home, you won't get a market for your home. By the way, they've had 3 viewings in 3 months, I think they said. So I often think about this. What is it that I'm not saying that so many sellers, and I know that because even some of my followers who are sellers contact me, say, we've been following your channel, we followed your advice, we've gone onto the market and we can't sell, we don't know what we're doing wrong. And I think to myself, you haven't followed my advice. You haven't. You have committed exactly the mistake that I warn everyone of committing on my channel, and you've gone and done it anyway. Why? And I think, it's still a mystery to me, but I think it's something to do with a sort of subconscious fear of that maybe you'll miss out on more money if you underprice it. That is a baseless fear. Provided you come to the market correctly, at just the right price to get the maximum number of viewers in the door. Now, they're asking me what to do about this next. And one of the questions is, should we stay with the agent or should we change agents? Without knowing who the agents are and knowing a lot more, it's difficult to say. Because this is why it's so important to choose your agent right. If you just think, wow, all the agents, they're in business, they must be okay, right? Not going to be that bad. As long as they look, as long as they sound nice and sound like they know what they're doing, and we'll just go with anyone, right? That is the reason most sellers who don't sell get into trouble, is because they underestimate how critical your choice of agent is. Now, for those of you saying, well, they're all terrible, they're not. They are not all equally terrible, right? Roughly speaking, and I was sitting face to face with one of the country's most successful estate agents of all time, as in one of the bosses of one of the biggest companies in the country. And we agreed on this. We said roughly 10 to 15% of agents are good or very good, right? They are actually good professionals who know how to get the job done and get it done well and deliver for their customers. Then you've got roughly 30% who are adequate. They get the job done. It's not great. They won't get you the best price. It'll take longer than you want it to. But then literally about the other 50% of agents are quite staggeringly incompetent. It has to be seen to be believed just how bad roughly half of all agents really are. They're nice people. I'm not saying they're bad, terrible people. I'm not saying they're greedy. In fact, they're really not greedy. Some of them, it's not even greed. You couldn't even put it down to greed. It's sheer, raw incompetence and lack of knowledge of what they're doing. And I speak as someone who was a judge at the Sunday Times Estate Agency of the Year Awards, right? As someone who has had estate agents from all over the country as clients for 25 years. I've had estate agents who are Mayfair agents selling the most expensive property in the country for 10 or 15 years. I've had agents in the north of the country in towns where properties are very, very cheap, selling large quantities of homes at way below the national average price. I am qualified to say this, okay? Roughly half of all agents are so staggeringly incompetent, it is a genuine miracle that they're in business at all. Why are they in business? Because it's so easy to go to the seller of a house and go, yeah, we can get you that much money, and then get them to sign on a contract that means that you're stuck with the agent. and then just wait till they drop the price and you sell the house, because that seller is then stuck with that agent. So they get the fee. So this problem of overvaluing is the only, and then signing people into long solidity contracts is the only reason these staggeringly incompetent agents are able to actually keep the lights on. Because so many sellers, and I mean 2/3 at least of all sellers, are just lambs to the slaughter, lemmings walking off the side of a cliff. They just think, well, agents are idiots. Anyone can sell a house. Just put it on Rightmove, right? Wrong, wrong, wrong. That is why I have these people coming to me out of desperation saying, I've been with 3 agents. We've dropped the price 3 times. We can't sell. We don't know what to do. We're desperate. Can anyone who thinks that selling a house is easy, you just put it on Rightmove, who's just heard the story I've described, reconcile those 2 different points of view and then tell me that you still think selling a house is easy, right? And this is before we even get to the point of having a price agreed and then having to get the deal over the line. And this is the reason, by the way, that AI will never replace estate agents, because estate agents do the irreplaceably human job of delicate expectation management with emotional individuals, which they have to do because otherwise there's no chance of selling the house. They then perform the negotiation process. And I've been involved directly with an agent that's doing this right now. I am helping them with their business. I'm helping them beat overvaluing competitors. And I'm advising them on almost a daily basis about the situations they come up against. And this is why I'm not an agent, because I could never put up with the shit they have to put up with, right? And this is negotiation, right? This is actually getting a buyer and a seller to actually agree something and actually then not try and kill each other before they've exchanged contracts. It's this ridiculous personality and character management in the negotiation process, and then the renegotiation, because they all move the goalposts, right? Buyers and sellers all want to move the goalposts all the time, sometimes for valid reasons, often not for valid reasons. I do not have the patience to put up with that shit, honestly, right? And the third thing that AI will never do is herd the cats of sales progression. The brokers, the conveyancers, the surveyors, the lenders, the la 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 la. Yes, in theory, you could write some code and it's all automated, but you're dealing with humans who won't pick up their phone, won't reply to their email, haven't provided the right paperwork. Tell me how AI solves that problem. Because most of the delays in this industry are caused by movers not having correct paperwork, compounded by incompetent agents, further compounded by cheap crap conveyancers. AI will never fix those problems. And until the law is changed, where it's effectively, once an offer is accepted, that's it, you've traded. It's then just a paperwork exercise to get to completion, like they do in Scotland, right? Where once your offer is accepted, boom, you've exchanged contracts. That's it, right? And until or unless they do that in England and Wales, this problem's not going to go away, and AI ain't going to fix it. They fixed this problem in Scotland a long time ago by changing the law. They didn't need AI to do it, right? At the moment, a buyer or a seller can change their mind about anything right up to the second that they tell their solicitor, okay, exchange. Up until that second, they can go, actually, no, change my mind. So unless you are a seller who thinks that buyers are just going to trot up, make an offer you've accepted, and then behave perfectly and put in all their paperwork on time and deal with all the problems and not run away when the survey comes out, and then just proceed without pulling out when 30% of all agreed deals fail. If you're a seller that thinks a 30% failure rate of deals isn't a threat to your life plans, well, then of course you're not going to choose a professional agent, are you? Honestly, if you could see what I've seen and understand how difficult this process is, nobody would ever go to a cheap estate agent, because a cheap estate agent with a low fee, it's like advertising saying, I don't even understand the process myself. I'm prepared to work for a loss. I'm having to work 18 hours a day just to hold my deals together because it's so hard, because I'm not charging enough money to employ people to actually help with the process. So agents charging a proper fee, which by the way is 2%. A good agent has you a very, very high success rate, that shows you and is able to prove that they've got you the best price the market will pay for your home, and then gets that deal completed in a really good space of time, is worth 2% all day long. And I know that people who are moving house have got huge amounts of bills and you want to keep your costs down. But believe me, you do not want to demotivate your agent by then trying to chip them on fee. I've witnessed firsthand exactly this happening recently. And if I had been the agent, I would have been so angry with this seller. Honestly, I would have been so angry with the seller, having delivered the most outstanding result. The seller then had the audacity to come back and go, well, I actually want you to reduce your fee now. What? I've got you a record price. In 3 weeks, we had 30 viewings, and I got 7 more people who never even got to view. We got you a record price in the street, and a record price per square foot in a record time in a difficult market, and you now think you should reduce. I mean, what I would have said to that seller, this is why I could be an agent, right? You know, this is moving the goalposts. And I promise you this, as badly as many agents behave, none of them behave worse than some of these movers. It's quite shocking. Right. Okay, sorry, that was a bit of a rambly rant, wasn't it? But I actually want to get onto the point about what you should do in the situation where, okay, you're desperate, you've got to sell, the market's showing no interest in your property, and you're wondering what to do next. You've missed your first impression, you've changed agents, you've missed your second impression, you've changed agents again, you've really, you know, the market for your property knows about you if you've done that. They have seen your home. And what they see is desperation, greed, unrealistic, right? So your property is tainted. There aren't going to be suddenly a new batch of buyers for your home if you put it on with a fourth agent at a lower price. Everyone's going to know. And this is why you should go to any lengths to avoid making this mistake in the first place. Now you've got no choice. First of all, I would be frustrated with all of those agents because all of them advise badly on price. And especially the third one. I mean, Christ, if you're the third agent to take on a property and you know what's happened the first and the second times, are you really going to make the same mistake as the other two and still overprice it? See what I mean? About the like true levels of incompetence. They're losing money too. I mean, it's not just, this is why it's actual incompetence, because they can't be doing this on purpose, can they? I mean, you cannot be that stupid on purpose. And if they're working in the local market, those agents, then they will know what the rough market is for that property. So I would be looking for another agent. You've got to get 3 things right. You've got to get the presentation of the property right. No corners cut. You have to really make that property pop out amongst the list of all the other properties on the internet. You really got to highlight what's best. Don't manipulate and put in fake blue skies and that kind of crap. I mean, you can do that, whatever, but everyone can see it. It just looks a bit weird. Go to the lengths necessary to get the best possible quality photography, especially if you've got a picturesque property. Declutter. Oh my God. I did see the photographs. I didn't mention this to them, but because it was a thatched cottage with small rooms and low ceilings, you couldn't move in there. It was so cluttered, and that's off-putting. Declutter. Get everything to the tip that you're not going to take with you when you move house, right? Just get it to the tip before you take the photographs. And then declutter some more. Put everything out in the garage, like really strip it right back. Declutter, take great photographs, make sure the floor plan is good, not a crappy, cheap floor plan, a proper quality floor plan. There are differences, I won't go into them now. And when it comes to writing the descriptions, buyers are so fed up with reading the same bollocks time and again. It beautifully presented. No, it's not. It's all cluttered. It's not beautifully presented at all. It's cluttered. Why do agents write that? To make the sellers happy. Oh, he thinks our house is beautifully presented. Is it, Rick? Come on. Is it? Honestly, if you were a buyer, would you think that's beautifully presented? The written description is not worth doing unless you're going to write things in it that you can't see in the photographs or the floor plan. Okay? The written description should only be used to convey information about that property that you can't see in the photographs. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And don't tell the readers what they think of your property. They will decide if it's beautiful. They will decide if it's spacious. They will decide if it's well presented. They will decide if it's characterful. They will decide, not you. Don't tell your market what they think of your property. Let them decide. Give them facts and information that is actually useful and more likely to make them want to come and view the property. If, for example, your home is right next door to a pub, turn that into a positive. Because for some buyers, that will be a positive. And for others, it'll be off-putting. So if you hide it, I'm going off on a tangent here, right? Write your details in a way that improves that, because everything you're doing here is trying to increase the number of people who want to view. The photographs are there to increase the number of people who want to view. The floor plans are there to increase the number of people who want to view. The written description exists to increase the number of people who want to view. That's the objective, not to sell the property. The photographs are not there to sell the property. The floor plan is not there to sell the property. The written description is not there to sell the property. It's for people to make a decision, I want to view that house. It is a viewing decision only. I know I'm going into detail here, but this is why if you're going to change agents again, you've got to get this right. And any agents not doing this, they're not good enough. Right, that's the presentation part taken care of, okay? Yes, get fresh photographs done when you change agent. Insist on it. Insist on professional photography. An agent charging a proper fee will include professional photography in their fee. If an agent's doing a cheap fee, they might want you to pay for the photographs, and you should be willing to do that because it's worth it for you. When it comes to price, this is the most important part. You have to work with your agent to work out what is, I'm trying to think of a different way to describe it because obviously everywhere I've described it so far isn't good enough. It is a hook. It's bait. The marketing price is not to communicate what you want for the property because it doesn't matter what you want. Why? The market decides. The market decides. The market decides. Cannot say it enough. The market decides. Right? So the market decides what it's going to pay for your house, no matter what the asking price is. Now, some of you go, oh, but Charlie, we know that, people are going to offer 10% under. So if we put 10% over, they offer 10% under, we can sell it. Can that happen? Yes, it can. But you're almost always selling for less than you would have if you had competing buyers. If you get one bidder that comes in 10% below your asking price and you're happy with that, you've almost certainly undersold the property. So it's a mistake to do that, right? Working out that price, and this is where it's the hardest part psychologically for sellers, right? You have to let go of the fact. You have to let go of the connection that you think there is between your asking price and your sale price. Okay? So I said 500 or 525. I really mean 500. Because why? Because all of those buyers who looked at that and thought, oh, that's nice. It's a shame it's so expensive. I'm not going to go and view it. It's a waste of time. It's far too much money. When you move the asking price into the ballpark of what potential buyers of that home would like to pay, ding, ding, interest. And you need to not put the asking price low enough to get one. You need to get a handful of people going, that's now in the realms of reality. Yes, you're still going to have to overcome the problem. Well, what's wrong with it? Why didn't it sell? Why has it been on the market all that time? Why do they keep changing agent? Yes, you've got to combat that. But the moment they've come in the door and seen how lovely your home is, if it's lovely, all of that goes out the window. All of it goes out the window. Okay, so that price, the marketing price's job is getting people through the door. Once you've got people through the door, you're giving the agent the ammunition they need to do their job. Okay, without people through the door, they can't do their job. People through the door, people through the door. And another thing while I'm at it, sellers, Move mountains to accommodate viewings whenever they come. Do not be some of these sellers. Oh no, we don't want them coming on Thursday. We can't do on Friday evening. No, we got Auntie Miggles is coming around for tea on Thursday afternoon. So we can't do that. Prioritize viewings. Okay, because going to the length of, believe me, this happens all the time, right? Going to the length of wanting to sell your property, having the photographs and everything else, and then turning down a viewing because it's not convenient for you is palpably stupid, right? You need to go every viewing, every extra viewing is improving the chance of us getting competing offers and finding out what the market will pay. So don't be a dummy. Don't turn around to your agent and go, oh, no, we don't really want a viewing on Thursday. Can they come next week? You just don't, do you want to sell your house? You need to make way for the viewers. As long as your agent is good, they won't let time wasters come around. They will qualify them properly. Another reason why you should pay a good agent, because a good agent qualifies buyers properly and actually doesn't do time wasting viewings. Viewings of buyers who just have no interest at all. And they don't need to do that because they've got enough quality buyers. So, sorry, I was coming back to getting the price. How do you get that price right? Roughly speaking, you want to look at the closest properties to yours that are showing as under offer or sold. And roughly speaking, you want to be putting your asking price about 10% below that. And the other thing that sellers do all the time is go, well, my house is nicer than theirs because. Yeah, yes, okay. First of all, that's subjective. You like your wallpaper. They may not like your wallpaper. But also, that thing you think is nicer. Oh, my garden is south-facing, theirs isn't. Yeah, but theirs is 30% bigger floor area. Right? They've got 3,000 square feet instead of 2,000 square feet. You're not factoring that into the price, and you really need to. They've had a new roof on theirs. You haven't had a new roof on yours. That affects the price. Sellers don't want to hear this. And of course, a lot of agents don't have the cojones to tell them the truth. No, your roof's going to fall down. You're going to have to price in a new roof. You're going to drop the price. Because most sellers just don't want to hear that from an agent. Price to get people through the door. Right, okay. Choose your agent like your future depends on it. Make sure the marketing is amazing. And price aggressively if you are in the situation of being desperate to sell. You don't want to go to auction, which is going to be your last resort, right? Auction will be your last resort if you have to sell. But if you have to sell and it's a decent home, you've just ignored the market. You haven't brought your house to the market. You have told the market what you think you want, and the market isn't interested. The market doesn't care. I've been rambling for a long time. Oh my God. I really can want to go on, can't I? Do we have any questions? Do we have any sellers here? Yeah, Jay Ritchie makes a point. When I look at floor plans on Rightmove, a large number clearly haven't calculated the floor area. This is what I mean by cheap floor plans, right? Some of them got this do-it-yourself stuff, and they're not allowed to quote square footage because they haven't measured it correctly. And sellers, if you quote your square footage wrong on your house, right? Let's say the actual accurate square footage of your house is 2,000 square feet. And let's say with your floor plan measurements or the agent's floor plan measurements, you've gone, well, let's call it 2,200 square feet. And the purchase goes through based on a 2,200 square foot measurement. And the buyers subsequently find out that it's only 2,000 square feet. They can and will sue you for the difference. They will come and find you and sue you. And a court will say, you misrepresented the size of your house. You owe the buyer the difference. I've seen it happen. How do I know this? Because I started out as a floor plan supplier to estate agents, and we had to do it in accordance with the RICS code of measuring practice. And without that, we couldn't quote square footage. And a lot of agents don't know this too. Cheap crap agents will put square footage on there. And if you're a seller, you are opening yourself up to being sued when a buyer finds out that the house is smaller than you said. This is why, another reason why you just shouldn't go with cheap agents. Chris says, we feel like, as you're obviously a buyer, we feel like giving up sometimes. The funny thing is we've asked about a couple of properties which have already been reduced, feel sorry for the sellers. This is the point. I mean, look, so this story I was telling you about, they've already reduced from 720 to 660. And I've basically said, look, you got to come down another 100, 150,000 pounds. And what that means is they can't afford to live where they want to live now without a mortgage, but they're retired. So it's a real, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? Can we afford to downsize? Do we have to stay here when that situation sounded like a situation where the problem with living in that home that they loved was that it was actually accelerating the deterioration of the husband's medical condition. Payne and Son says, many sellers just dig heels in. We sold our home within a week for what we needed. Another agent overvalued. One we used valued 10% under the other one. Result, we sold. Mike Denning says, a lot of sellers are plain stupid or greedy. Not all, though. Correct. Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of sellers just don't bother doing their research properly. Oh, we'll ask the agents. They know. Oh, God, yeah, that's that. Tony G says here, property on the market since September and not sold and no offers. September, that's 6 months ago. They want 500 and won't budge. You want to kind of go knock them on the forehead and go, the fact that you want it doesn't mean that's what the market will pay for it. What evidence have you seen that makes you think the market will pay 500? I know you want 500, but what have you seen that makes you think the market will pay 500? What have you seen? What? Tell us. What? Not what you think. What have you seen? And of course, yes, we're not in a rush. Well, just as well. Arthur O'Caithlin says, what's your advice for people who want to sell their house for themselves and save the... Well, first of all, agents' fees aren't 5%. They are typically... Crap agents charge 1%. Good, medium agents charge 1.5%. Really good agents only charge 2%. Okay. And the serious answer to your question, before I give you the unserious answer, is that you only save the fee if you're sure you can achieve the same price as an agent would. And this is where you start to realize, if I go with a cheap agent, 1% agent, they're not going to get me such a good price. So if I go for a 2% agent and they get me a better price, I'm actually better off. So the cheapest way to sell your house is to use, provided they are actually good, an expensive agent, because you end up with more money in your pocket. It is just maths. It's incontrovertible. And I assure you, the quality agents do achieve higher prices in less time. That is why intelligent people, pay good agents good fees. Oh, Amanda Ediriwira, I think I've pronounced it right, says, my daughter is now happily in her flat. First time I used your email template. As you say, after offer was accepted, it was the solicitors and estate agents that moved and slowed the sale down. But happy that she's in. That's amazing. Okay, Andy. I have a seller here. Been on the market for 6 weeks. Suspect my house is overpriced. Well, that's good. That's good. Acceptance is the first step. What's the best strategy for dropping price? Okay. If this is the first time you're going to drop the price, don't make the mistake of not dropping it enough. You will not lose money by dropping it to the right price to get interest in the door. You will make more money by dropping it further. Can you drop it too far? In very rare exceptions, it is possible that properties get priced too low and then get overlooked by people of a certain budget. But it's vanishingly rare that happens. You know, I need to let you know that it can happen, but it is vanishingly rare that that happens. So, Andy, ask your agent and say, what would the closest actually sold exchanged price for a house like mine nearby? What was the most recent comparable? Not what's under offer, what actually sold and when. Okay. And if you can't find one like that, look at the nearest one to yours, or the most comparable one to yours that is under offer, and look at the asking price and think to yourself, I'm not pricing it to communicate what I want for it. I'm pricing it to get people through the door. Okay. So discuss it with your agent and say, I've watched Charlie's video and he told me that it's the market that decides what the house will sell for. And an agent will go, hallelujah, praise be that we have a seller who understands that the market decides. So you then say to the agent, so what price should we reduce to ensure a stampede of buyers and viewers? You know, not a literal stampede, but you know what I mean, right? And say, I do not want to make the mistake of reducing the price insufficiently and still having no viewings, or only getting 1 or 2 viewings. How many viewings should we be aiming for? Well, unless you're in a really specialist kind of property, if you are in a conventional main part of the market property, it's not a particularly rare one, but a fairly typical property for the area, you ideally want to have 8 to 10 viewings, 8 to 10 people viewing it, so that you typically get 3 to 4 offers, out of which 1 or 2 will drop out. You'll get with 2 that really want it bidding against each other. And that's how you discover the market price. So the best strategy for dropping your price, don't only drop your price, double check your quality of your photographs. Is your floor plan good enough? Do you want to rewrite the description? Is the agent really good, or are they just an agent that you thought were okay? If you can move from your agent and you haven't signed a long sole agency contract, haven't had a chance to say that, don't sign a long sole agency contract. If you have the freedom to move, consider changing agents. Okay, don't risk half-arsing your price reduction. If you've got good photographs and a good agent, and the agent says, great, that's fantastic that you want to work with the market, let's ask them to talk you through their recommendation on the newly reduced price to get multiple buyers in, and hold them to it. Say to them, I'm holding you to the fact that what we're going to do now will get multiple buyers. And if it doesn't, I will go to another agent, because you will have let me down badly. I can't afford to get this wrong. I do not want to be dropping my price again and again and again. Is that helpful, Andy? I hope so. Do you have any other follow-up questions to that? Because I'm here for sellers like you. That's what this video is about. Valma Hiblin says, Charlie, you're so right. I was a nightmare first-time buyer. The only thing that made it better for all involved that I was taking your advice. Lol. I used to live next door to a man who was delusional about his property's value. And it's because he pinned his self-worth on the value of his property. And that explains an awful lot, by the way. If you think about that, some people pin their own self-worth on the value of their property, which is a mistake. And it's very sad when that happens. Yes, Mike Denning says, clean the toilets as well. I've never seen yeah, you really want to have your house in absolute tip-top condition. You know, and if you're someone that just like, oh God, I can't face the job, pay for cleaners, professional cleaners to come around and do a proper deep clean. Makes the world of difference. Payne and Son says, eventually I can see agents charging an upfront fee to market houses due to the sellers being so unrealistic. That's what always used to happen. That's what always used to happen. You paid you agreed your agent a no sale, no fee, but you paid for the out-of-pocket marketing costs, which back in the day used to be advertising, especially higher end properties. That still happens, I think, in Sydney. And if a seller's not prepared to pay for the basic costs of their marketing, are they serious about selling? It's all part of what went wrong in this market in England. Oh, Tony G. Anyone else hate block viewings? Now, well, block viewings, you mean like an open house, right? When they just have an agent's there for a couple of hours and a whole bunch of people come around. It does make sense. As a buyer, of course you're going to hate it. But if an agent has done a good enough job marketing your property that enough people want to view it, and you can say to them, the viewing is on Saturday at 2:00, that agent's done a really, really, really good job getting that much interest in the property. And of course, you're going to hate it if you're a buyer because it means there's lots of interest and you're competing with other people. But that agent, and I'm here for the sellers today, that agent's done an outstanding job. Amanda Ediriwira says, using your advice to sell late mother's house, got a good deal, 0.8% agent's fees. That's a bit of a red flag. Less than 1% is a bit of a red flag. Is it a very valuable property? Is it a high-end value property? I'd like to know, because if it's not, if it's a average value property, that's a worrying sign. 2 agents competing for your business. All agents will compete for your business. They will cut each other's legs off to get your business. How's it going? Is the asking price? Have you been getting competing bids? Let me know. Oh, thank you, Pen and Son. We sold using his advice and it truly works. It does work. I wouldn't make it up, would I? I've got absolutely nothing to gain from making up this. This is all from first-hand experience of working with hundreds of different agencies over the last 25 years. Anne Burgess says, to be honest, right, we've sent me details of a cluttered house today and I found it really appealing. I'm sick to death of seeing hotel suites every time I view. Yeah, okay, I hear that point. But generally speaking, the data backs up the fact, and the data of actually measuring click-throughs from Rightmove to properties and the click-through rate from that into a viewing says that uncluttered properties get more viewings. But yeah, horses for courses. Wow. Ritori91 says, just had an offer accepted on a flat for 18% under asking. Now, this is worth, if you're a seller, it's worth thinking of this. This is a buyer here. 18% under asking. What does that mean for you if you're a seller? Because unfortunately, I think many sellers who haven't sold, not all, but many of you are 15 to 20, even 25% over where the market for your property really is. That might be life-changingly bad news for you if I'm right. I get that. But if that is the case, what would you rather? Confront the brutal reality of it and move on with your life one way or the other? Or sit there and maybe in a year from now look back going, oh my God, I wish we'd sold it last year. Tom Rowland says, do you think reservation fees will catch on? So reservation fees are effectively, it's a pre-sale contract where the buyer and the seller sign a contract committing to not back out of the deal. And you would think that would catch on. They've been available for a long time, and there are certain circumstances in which they work. But there are a lot of reasons why they're unattractive for certain people. And so I don't think they'll catch on, even though I think they are a good idea in certain, it depends on the market conditions, it depends on all kinds of things. In a rising market, everyone's a bit happier about it because it helps to avoid gazumping. So buyers are very happy to sign reservation agreements. In a falling market, when there's uncertainty about the survey, when there's uncertainty about the prices coming down, buyers are much more nervous about committing when a transaction might take 6 months and you're seeing headlines about potential crash next year and that kind of stuff. Ed Escape says, are flat prices going down now because of stamp duty? First time buyer here. So roughly speaking, as a broad rule of thumb, prices will come down by about half of whatever the stamp duty on them would be for the average buyer. All right, so if stamp duty on your house you're selling has now gone up by 10 grand, you should be expecting at least 5 grand less now. All right, about half. You should be reducing your asking price by half of the increase in stamp duty if you're a seller, on average. Specifically, no, check it out with your agent, everything else. But that rise in stamp duty has not helped anyone. Just looking for more questions here. Yeah, overvaluing does lose agents money. I've been working with an agent that was saying about how, if we don't list it, we can't sell it. And I said, look how many you're listing and not selling, and look at what they're costing you. You're not doing the numbers, you're not doing the maths. And that was how I managed to persuade them to just completely commit to no longer overvaluing and no longer listing property that wasn't saleable. They realized that, I said, there might be 1 in 5 that you won't get that you would have got the old way, but what would you rather have? List 5 properties to sell 1, or list 3 to sell 2? Once I showed the numbers, they're like, okay, got it. Plugus 2K on YouTube says, question, my first house was sold for 210,000 in 2022, but the chain collapsed, but I bought a new house and kept the first 2. If I sell the first house now in 2025 for 210K, is that possible? It's without knowing where you are in the country, whether that's a flat or it's a house, right? But it's impossible to know that. Is it a new build or not? I can't answer that, I'm afraid. Sorry, I should have read the question before I picked it. Yeah. See, Mr. Ree makes a point. So selling a house is harder and slower now than it was 25 years ago. Well, 40 years ago, as this is. I sold my property, privately in 1986. It was simple. I achieved higher than the EA said and had 3 buyers outbidding each other. Agreed price exchange. Yeah. Look, there are occasions when that can happen. It is not the same for everybody. So if you happen to live in an extremely unusual property, a highly desirable and unusual property in a certain place, your neighbors are probably going to know people that want to buy it. And yes, you'll be able to sell it privately for a great price if you know what you're doing. But generally speaking, that it's a bad idea. Anthony Aka on YouTube says, hi, Charlie, I love the content. You are a godsend. Thank you. That's nice to be called a godsend. I had a maximum comfortable offer of 580,000. I'm assuming you're the buyer here. The agent said the house was mine for 580,000. Lost out on the house, but I feel bad. Was this wrong? You'll need to elaborate. Why do you feel bad? If that was your maximum comfortable offer, did someone else offer more? In which case, if it was your maximum comfortable offer, you shouldn't feel bad. You should feel relieved because you didn't overpay. Not sure I understand the question there. Sorry. Zai asks, is the EPC square footage accurate? The answer to that is it depends on the equipment and the methodology that they use to measure it. It also depends on whether or not the people doing it know about the rules about what you can and can't include in floor space. So, for example, restricted height ceiling cannot be below a certain level, cannot be included in the floor area as quoted usable floor area. So it must be done in accordance with the RICS code of measuring practice. If it is, then yes. If it's not, then no. Mr. Rhea again said, why do agents say viewing recommended? WTF, why say that? Don't they have any property they don't recommend? Exactly. Agents that say viewing recommended in their marketing, I think are like advertising. We're not a very good agent. It's harmless, but it's a bit silly. Yeah, so Someone on YouTube, so that's not a name, says, how to solve the housing crisis, support traditional families, downsize after paying mortgage for 25 years. Well, I agree, but downsizing would happen if they got rid of stamp duty. And one of the biggest things stopping people from downsizing is stamp duty making it too expensive. Yeah, honestly, any agent, especially an agent watching this, if you're using any standard phrases in your descriptions, just stop. 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 You're not doing yourself or your client any favors. Put stuff in that's actually valuable and interesting. Question. It's not a question, is it? It's a statement. But Anthony Keeley says, question, buyers aren't always there. Depends where your property is. No, buyers are always there. At the right price, buyers are almost always there. I mean, unless you're talking about a street of derelict properties in a ghost town. But there aren't that many of those here. I know there are some. Ant H has dropped ours. I assume that you dropped your asking price. 25k after only 2 weeks on the market and sold soon after, from your advice. Thank you, Ant. Love it. Thank you for the news. Always makes me happy. Oh, Ant says, you say long sole agency contract. Don't sign a long sole agency contract. How long is long? Well, that can vary depending on the kind of property you're selling and where you're selling it, what the market's like. But roughly speaking, long is it longer than you'd expect or than you want for them to sell your house, right? If you would like your house sold, or at least have an offer accepted within 6 weeks, why would you sign a sole agency contract for longer than 6 weeks? Don't do it. Don't sign a sole agency contract for a period longer than you are happy to wait without being able to change to another agent. Some agents don't have any contract terms, and so you can walk away anytime. I have seen behavior by sellers in the last few weeks that makes me understand why agents need a contract, because some sellers behave fucking atrociously badly, and you have to have a contract to protect yourself when you've done everything right as an agent, and then as sellers waste your time. The worst kind of agents ask for 12 or even 16 or even 20, or actually in some cases 26 weeks. I know that Connells and Foxtons and Dexters are all examples of agents asking for ridiculously long. And when always ask as a seller, always ask, how long are your contract terms? And in fact, you should ask this before they come round, because if they say over the phone 20 weeks, say, sorry, off you go. No thanks. I won't be signing 20-week sole agency contract. If you have an unusual house in a remote location that's going to take longer to sell, and the agent says, look, it's an unusual house, it's a remote location, it's going to take quite longer just for viewers to come and view it, so could we please have 10 weeks? They've given rationale, they're asking for your commitment. That's totally reasonable, right? If you're happy for it to take 10 weeks. But for agents selling bread and butter properties in streets and towns and suburbs, wanting 20 or 26-week contracts, that is a glowing red flag that you should not use those agents. Martin Turner says, agent rang me today, home's coming back on the market. Andy. So Andy was asked me earlier about how to strategy for lowering price. And I asked how you priced it. You said you priced it in line to a comparable property that my agents have already sold subject to contract. That's why. But they did admit they were lucky as a cash buyer with inheritance. Okay. Did you price it at the price that the other one sold? And did you take into account that they got lucky with it? Because what in that scenario right there, one of the things the agents don't want is a comparable property coming onto the market at an asking price below the one that they've just got sold subject to contract. Because if the buyer sees that, they're like, hang on a second, why have I paid that for that property? And now you've got one that's going on cheaper. Archer O'Caithlin on Facebook asks, does the smell of freshly baked bread and coffee attract prospective buyers that view a property? Not necessarily specifically those things, but yes, fresh smells in a house do create a subconscious better first impression when viewers walk in the door. Don't go overboard. It creates suspicion. But fresh flowers, having coffee because you're actually making coffee to drink some. Yeah, I mean, don't make it smell like a baker's, because that will just be a bit weird, wouldn't it? But a lot of people don't realize how bad their homes smell because they're used to them. So one of the questions I would ask an agent if I was a seller is, does my home have a smell I might be used to that might put other people off? I'd ask that question. So don't worry, I won't be offended. Let me know. Do I need to freshen up the smell? Yeah, sometimes it's just a question of opening the windows and ventilating it properly and putting in some air fresheners. But if you're going to use air fresheners, be careful, because some of those smell awful. Yeah, Clement Moraski says, put your stuff away. Quite right. Liam says, why are estate agent photos of properties so shit? No excuses with the tech these days. Absolutely agree with that. And as a seller, it always astonishes me that sellers choose agents that have got properties with bad photographs on them. That's something I don't understand. I mean, you must understand that the quality of photographs on your property has a direct impact on how much interest you get and how many people want to come and view it. So why would you instruct an agent that has poor photographs? Dave Ozan on X says, do bungalows have a higher premium? In some places they do. It depends on who the local typical market is. But in some places, especially if there's a lot of competition from downsizers, because bungalows are popular with downsizers, and a lot of downsizers do have cash funds to buy. And so because older people like to retire into bungalows, so they haven't got the problem of stairs, they can attract a higher premium. Yes, in some places. Not everywhere, though. It's not automatically the case. And it'll very much depend on the quality of the bungalow as well, the build quality. Amanda says, you were debating between two estate agents. I would always talk to more than two. I would try and find which is the best one, which agent's got the best quality photographs, or owner managed agents, people that are going to really care about your sale. But good luck with that. I hope it goes okay. Arturo Cather says, do you think online auctions are a scam? Well, they're not illegal, but they are open to abuse. And generally speaking, if you are a seller and you end up having to sell through an auction, unless the property's got a very specifically, it's unmortgageable. If it's an unmortgageable property, I get it. Sell it through an auction. But as first-time buyers, I'd avoid auctions. As sellers, yeah, I would much rather market my property at a competitive price with a high street agent or a self-employed professional agent than I would put into an auction. Because the moment it's in an auction, everyone's expectations on price drop by another 10%. I mean, roughly, right? Don't hold me to that number. Okay, Samara on X. I'm glad I saw this. This is a classic mistake. A classic mistake. And Samara, don't feel bad, because everyone does it. A lot of people do this. I'm going on the market next week. Varying valuations. I've gone with the middle one. Should I price lower to get more viewings? So going with the middle of three valuations is a very, very typical decision a lot of sellers make, because they think, well, I haven't gone for the highest one, so I'm not being unrealistic. I've gone for the middle one. Now, for that to be a valid decision, you would have to believe that the lowest valuation was actually below its value. And in this market, I would be minded more to go with the agent with the lowest valuation, because they're the one that's being most honest with you. If you haven't yet gone on the market, I've caught you just in time Also, if you've signed a contract, check how long it is, because you've got 14 days to cancel, right? 14-day cooling off period. Did you go with the middle one just because of the price, or were there other reasons? Because you should definitely price low to get more viewings. What you should say to your agent, whoever you decide to go with, first of all, make sure the photographs are tip top. Secondly, make sure the floor plan is a proper quality one with square footage measured on it. And if they don't use a floor plan with square footage properly quoted on it, I would push back. But make sure you say to them that you understand that the market will decide, the market for your property will decide on the price, and that you understand that the launch marketing price has the job of getting people through the door to get viewings. So yes, in a nutshell, you should price lower to get more viewings. Talk to your agent if they're one that you really trust and think they're really professional. And if you've got any doubts about your agent's professionalism, don't go with them, go with another one. Because you're in that position where I don't know what you're pricing it at. I don't know whether all three. The worst case scenario is all three agents have overpriced it by 15, 20, 25%. And they've set your expectations at a price that you're quite happy with, but actually the market might be 15, 20% below. Now, you're hearing me say that, Samara. I don't know who you are or where your house is, so this is objective advice, but just double check that you haven't been taken in by, well, I've asked the agents, that's what they said. It's around there, isn't it? That's reasonable. Do your own research. What have you seen that makes you think your property would be of interest to buyers at the price you're thinking of launching it at? Price it at the price that if you were a buyer, you would want to go and see it. Okay? And remember that as long as you get competing bidders, you will find the price that the market will pay for your property. Robert Wood says, looking in Essex, past 2 days, reductions everywhere. Is this any other areas as well? Looking at lower end of the market, budget sub 325k. It's happening in lots of areas, not everywhere. There are regional variations all over the place, but generally speaking, this is because of the stamp duty going up. This is why there are so more reductions happening. And just bide your time and never offer more than you're comfortable offering. So many good questions here. Oh my God, hour and 12 minutes. UK Smithy watching on Twitch. Hi Twitch. We don't get many Twitch viewers, but it's nice to see comments from you when I do. So you're selling. Got 3 viewings tomorrow for the property launch day. I was hoping for more, but fingers crossed. All right, UK Smithy. If you haven't actually launched it yet, and you have a chance to reconsider the launch price before it goes live, because you cannot undo or redo the first launch price. I'm absolutely serious, right? If you launch a property, unless it's a really rare, weird one, if you launch an ordinary property at the correct price, you should get 10 to 20 viewings in the first 2 weeks. Okay? 3 viewings ain't enough. Nick Jones asks, do you think that towns and cities on train main lines to London are increasing in price where all the hybrid workers are fleeing London? For example, look at Leeds. Yeah, there's definitely some of that. Definitely some of that. Okay, got a long question here from Chinello Blessed. Sorry if I got that wrong. Do you think this is a good time to buy or rent? I put an offer in for a house advertised as 11 to 1200 at 1185, as the estate agents maybe believe that was the only offer the seller will take. What do you think I should do? Shall I pull out and wait as my buyer is trying to fix a completion date? And to be honest, there is nothing coming on the market at the higher end to match my spec. So sorry, are you saying that you're selling, Chinello? You're selling and you're making an offer to rent? I just need clarification on that, please. Phil, I will check buy me a coffee after the stream. Amanda Adiriwira says, the agent I went with said he had 2 buyers looking for something like my mum's bungalow. Okay. Guff alert. All agents always say stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that that agent is lying. He could be telling the truth. He or she could be telling the truth, and they might genuinely have 2 buyers looking for that. But you need to push and go, really, what's their situation? What's the situation of those 2 buyers? And if it's genuine and they know which 2 buyers it is, without blinking and without looking away, they're looking and go, well, one of them is in this situation, one of them is in that situation. They just, and then they go, okay, that sounds like, but if they're like, oh, well, you know, they're just, then it's bullshit, right? So call them out on it. But hesitating, you're still hesitating between agents. And then in written contract, they quoted a higher price than agreed, so reduce the fee. Amanda, that's a bit confusing to me. But it just, I'm not sure you're going. 0.8% is scarily low if it's not a high value property. That says to me it's a cheap agent, and I would be considering alternatives. Definitely look at more than 2. Yeah, Billy Big Cool says so many include garage and square footage figure. Always make sure the square footage figure is clear about whether it includes or excludes the garage. It should exclude it, by the way. The garage should be quoted separately, unless it's built into the house. Then it's a grey area. Alex P93 says, had my offer rejected last week. The agent said the vendor had gone with another offer, yet the listing is still live on Rightmove. Was the agent lying? Seems like skullduggery to me. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's frustrating. It doesn't mean, I mean, sometimes they're just crap and haven't got around to it. They like leaving listings up because it helps get them more buyers. So I don't know. Amanda says they're the agent that sells most houses in the area. I hope I haven't got carried away by choosing this agent. Have you seen the evidence that they actually do sell the most houses in the area? Because what a lot of these agents do, like Foxes and Dexys, for example, is that they list the most houses in the area, but they only sell 1 in 4 of them. So double check whether they just the agent with the most boards for sale, because that doesn't mean they're selling them, or whether they're actually selling. Now, if they are an agent that is actually succeeding in selling most of the houses in the area, that's a good sign. But generally speaking, agents that are selling most of the houses in the area would not be charging a fee that low. CA, and this is actually a good question for sellers to listen to the answer. What's your view on agents stating offers over or offers above? Does that mean the seller will not entertain offers below? It always irks me when I see that. Right. It depends. There are 2 very different scenarios. When a good agent has priced a property really accurately and well, in other words, lots of buyers inquire and there are lots of viewings. When a good agent does it, it's because the agent knows that that property is going to go for more than that price. Okay. And so they're setting expectations to say, look, this is the launch marketing price. We know it's going to go for more than that. So we are just setting our expectations that it's going to be offers over that price. And in that scenario, it shouldn't irk you. But crap agents, mediocre and crap agents, will slap offers over on a price just because they're trying their luck and chancing their arm. And they don't have lots of interest. It's overpriced and they're not going to get any offers over. And so those agents, yes, you should be irked. But don't always assume it's one or the other, right? You'll soon know if you inquire about the property. Because if you inquire about the property and want to go and view it, and the agent says, look, we've got lots of viewings booked, lots of it. If they genuinely have, and you can tell they've got lots of viewings booked, that's because they've priced it correctly and offers over is a legitimate thing to put there. Carlos says, is there any reason EPC ratings and floor plans are missed off listings? Yeah, it's because the agent's crap. EPCs are required information. Floor plans aren't required, but a good agent would always have a floor plan. I'm leaning to. I've got so many sellers, and I'm so far over time here. I'm just leaning towards seller questions. Simon Reed says, "Any chance of getting Perry Power on soon?" Great idea. I'd love to have Perry back on the channel. Oh, Robert Wood. Yes, people do fall in love with property, and if you haven't fallen in love with properties yet, keep viewing. You'll know when you find the right one. Mr. Reese says, "What are your thoughts on estate agents charging £80 each person for ID checks?" That's too much money. They're profiteering on that. Charging something reasonable to cover the cost of doing it is fine. That's a Mickey take. Anthony Aka. Okay, thank you very much for the tip. Correction on earlier post. My max comfortable was 580. Agent said it was mine for 585. Top bidder 620, but had bad credit. Feel bad though. Why, Anthony? I still don't understand why you feel bad. Why do you feel bad? There's nothing you can do. If someone else bids 620, do you feel bad because you wish you'd paid 620 and got it now? Is that what you're saying? I'm still not quite sure why you feel bad. If you didn't get it, I mean, you're disappointed? Yeah, it's disappointing when your maximum comfortable offer isn't enough. Get used to that, right? Your maximum comfortable offer won't always win you the property. It's just a very, very good discipline. So guys, I've put a link in the description below to my 10 golden rules of selling, because there's lots of advice for selling that's really important that I haven't managed to talk about in this video. For example, getting your conveyancer before you get your agent, having your property sale ready, contract ready, exchange ready, which you can only do with the conveyancer. If you're serious about selling, and if you're not someone who's, oh, I can wait. If you're a Mr. I can wait for 20% more than the market's going to pay, then don't do this. It's a waste of money. But if you are actually serious about selling and you're willing to accept the market price, coming to the market with your sale paperwork ready and completed, that takes about 4 weeks at least to do, massively improves the chances of selling faster, getting more interest, and therefore more competing bidders. But please go and look at that video. It's linked to the description below, or Google it. Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers. MHWC or Charlie 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers. Please, 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 if you are a home seller, watch that video. It's 20 minutes. It's the best bang for your buck in terms of amount of advice in a video for sellers that I've done. Samara says, agent says 1.2 to 1.3, price at 1.2. I would say to the agent, what price do I need to set it at to guarantee lots of viewers? To give you an example, in that neck of the woods, I was working with an agent recently where they priced it at 1.3. They launched it and they've got it sold at 1.42. Okay, so £100,000 over the asking price. Do not care about the launch price. You will get the market price as long as you like. So I would check with the agent, because 1.2 might be the right. I'd maybe even go 1.15, 1.175. Just check with the agent. Ziamantwi says, question, has a seller using your advice met a buyer using your advice? What would happen? That's a great question. And that's my final question. I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know is the answer. I believe so. What would happen is, if the seller had used my advice, there would be competing bidders. If the buyer had used my advice, their offer would contain their proof of deposit funds, their mortgage in principle, mortgage decision, their conveyancer appointed, and their intention to buy a property search pack straight away. So it's quite likely that the seller would choose that buyer over the other buyers, almost regardless of price. And everyone would be happy, because that buyer would have bid their maximum comfortable price, so they won't be overpaying, and the seller would get a very quick deal. So the answer is, what would happen is the buyer and seller would both be very happy that they'd done the best price, and the market would have been discovered. The fair market value was discovered. Right. Wow, this is a far busier video than I was expecting it to be. So sellers, please start with your conveyancers, right? If you don't have conveyancers that you trust, do not go with cheap ones. Find ones that are quality. And you can tell by how they answer the phone, how quickly they call you back, how proactive they are. And if a seller says, sorry, if a conveyancer, when you ring them up, says, oh, come back to us when you found a buyer, they are not the conveyancer for you. That is a real red flag of a sleepy conveyancer that doesn't care about helping you get your property sold faster. Okay. You and the conveyancers I work with, both in the south and the north of England, are both award-winning firms who welcome sellers who want to get sale ready before they go to the market. And you put your property details in there, specify if you're north or south or don't care, and they'll be in touch with you to discuss it and give you a quote. Okay. Right. That was wonderful. Hour and 25 minutes. I honestly thought this was going to be a half an hour one. I can babble on for Britain, can't I? Thank you all so much for your questions. I'm sorry to those of you whose questions I didn't get to answer. Oh God, there are some good questions there. But I've got to go. I've got to go. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one. Bye-bye. And don't forget, share this if you know someone selling their house or that's struggling to sell their house.